I know everybody a go like. I know everybody a go like. Success don't come overnight. No make them know a substance over hype. Do it for the love, we not do it for the life.
What's up, Fit Fam? Hello, I'm Jason Harris, unofficially the fittest commercial real estate professional south of Boston, aka Coach Fitpro J, your diet-free fat loss specialist. I have been there, done that, and now help others do the same. I help successful busy people turn their mom and dad bods into, oh my God, bods, without overwhelm, by keeping it simple, keeping it moving, and keeping it real. Using my three-phase program, Diet Free Bootcamp, for successful busy people. If you'd like to connect with a coach that talks the talk and walks the walk, you could direct message me right here on Facebook. Thanks for tuning in. Tonight, registered dietitian Tiana Celesia and I are going to talk about how Halloween candy affects your gut and overall fitness. We'll also talk strategies to help you come out of this spooky time of year in one piece. Without a doubt, let me bring Tiana out. All right, Tiana, would you mind introducing yourself to all of the new group members and tell them who you are, what you do, and where you're located?
Certainly. So thank you for having me. My name is Tiana Celesia. I'm a functional medicine-based registered dietitian. I specialize in gut health. And when we talk about functional medicine, it kind of incorporates the stress, hormones, gut, and toxins. It's all related. We might get to that today. I am located in downtown Boston in Beacon Hill. If you want to see me in a brick and mortar, I'm also available virtually online. So thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. It's been about a month since Tiana's been on. At the beginning of this month, we broadcasted live with some guests. It was all about how alcohol affects your fitness goals. If you missed it, you can find it pinned to the top of the group in the featured section, or you could message me and I'll get you the link. This time, we thought that we'd give you some insight and tips on nutrition so that your families can have a healthier Halloween and holiday this year. So, Tiana, where would you like to start this discussion?
Well, I think, one thing that's important to point out is that Halloween is just the beginning. We are just getting started in the season of indulgence, overindulgence, excuses. So we were talking about that earlier. It is the season of excuses. So for those of us who are hearing and saying that, well, Halloween, come on, it's only one day. Yeah, well, it's the start. It's the one day start to, the week of eating the candy, the 4 weeks of eating the candy, and then we roll like a pumpkin right into Thanksgiving. So just the start of the season. So we need to put our foot lightly on that brake so we don't go full speed.
Yeah, you get that right. So then after Thanksgiving, right, we have Christmas and all the other holidays, Hanukkah and whatnot, and then we roll into the new year, and excuses also roll into the new year, and they also form New Year's resolutions. Anyhow, so this is the very beginning, like Tiana said, and we're starting with Halloween with sugar and candy, and sugar has quite the effect on the gut, believe it or not, and that's why we have Tiana on to talk about that a bit. But first, I just wanted to share the first tip as far as getting out of this the holiday season. I'm talking, like Tiana said, from Halloween all the way through New Year's with the excuses and whatnot. But a healthy lifestyle is important every day of the year, every day of the year. So that's the first tip. I mean, no brainer, right? But there's strategies to incorporate that, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. So anyway, we have Tiana on. So let's talk about sugar and gut health. I mean, what do you think about, Tiana, as far as when Halloween starts and you start to think of all this candy floating around and people eating all this candy? I mean, what do you think about that?
So, some of it is about dosages. So I'm a numbers person, I'm a data person. So I like to put numbers to things. So if we think about, well, what is the, if we had to have a recommendation for sugar, I mean, sugar is obviously not recommended, but we have a recommendation for, let's say, the upper ceiling. So for sugars, and when we say sugars, those mean added sugars and maybe some that might come naturally in the sweetest of foods. Maybe we're talking honeys and syrups, a little bit in fruit. 40
So
grams.
Tiana, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Let me pause there, just for the audience. So I see a little learning opportunity here. So when you're talking added sugars, and then you talked about natural sugars.
Well,
Now,
yeah.
if the
Okay.
audience wanted to, if the audience wanted to know on a nutrition facts label, like everything has it, go ahead and pick up a piece of Snickers or whatever candy you have or something, right, with sugar in it. And you look at the total carbohydrates, it'll give you a number. Underneath there, it lists things like fiber, a lot of times, dietary fiber. So it lists all these things, but it will say added sugars,
Right.
added sugars. And that's what Tiana's really talking about when she's talking about added sugars. You can actually find that on anything that's sold on the nutrition facts. Just look under total carbohydrates, look for it listed as added sugars underneath. And then she was also talking about natural sugars, which are like in fruits and things like that. That's just natural. So I just wanted to stop there, a little education moment as far as
Absolutely.
added sugars. That's what to really look out for, and that's how you can find it on a nutrition fact label under added sugars under the
Right.
carbohydrates. Sorry, Tiana, go ahead. You were saying something
Yeah.
about 40
No,
grams.
those are great. Great points to reinforce. So, in terms of how many added sugars to not achieve, like try to achieve, but try to achieve under, 40 grams is we shouldn't really go over 40 grams. Let's try to not get to 39. Now, of course, there's going to be a spectrum. So if someone is trying to limit their sugar for a medical condition, they may consider that sugar in fruit. They may consider the fruit from honey, maple syrup, and those kind of more natural effects. But for the purposes of today's conversation, we're talking about those added sugars on a label, that you're going to get in not so healthy foods. So that would be a great tip to be like, well, okay, it's Halloween, it's the holidays. I'll just budget myself. So, like any budget, just start counting up your numbers, right? You'll know if you have a can of Coca-Cola, that's all you're having for the day. I don't recommend a can of Coca-Cola, but that's going to be about 30, 40 grams of added sugars. So that is one way to look at this is, well, what's my budget? Because for some people, it's not realistic to say, oh, don't have any, have zero. So we are trying to be realistic here, just like we were with our alcohol talk, right? How do you moderate? So that gives us at least a budget. Now, depending on your goals, you may want to go much stricter than that, but we're just talking general here. So that just addresses the sugar, and that is the main topic tonight, but I can't resist talking about the other stuff that comes along with candy. So I don't know if you have anything to add to sugar, but
I do.
yeah,
I
so
do, in
let's
fact.
start with sugar, but let's come back to this because I want to talk about what else is in these candies.
No, absolutely. All the chemicals and dyes and all that stuff. So, as far as sugars are concerned, right now, not all sugar is created equal. We're talking about sugar, we're talking about corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, those sorts of things. So, Tiana, I mean, is there a big, huge difference between like a sugar and a high fructose corn syrup ingesting?
Absolutely. So there's actually research on that. So one thing to note about high fructose corn syrup is most of it, unless the label actually says it's organic, is made from GMO corn. So most likely you're going to get more of the pesticide, like a glyphosate. And it's also, there's mercury in it. I don't know if people know that there's heavy metals in their high fructose corn syrup, and it does seem to have a worse effect on the gut and on the body. So there is a difference. High fructose corn syrup is those, goblins. When we talked about the ghosts and the goblins, like that is scary stuff. And it's showing up more and more because it's cheap, right? It's cheap. It's super concentrated. And, they're putting it in our beverages and in our, oh gosh, you had that post up about that colored syrup. It's everywhere. So there is a difference. I much rather see someone having a teaspoon of organic sugar, cane sugar, than high fructose corn syrup for sure.
Yeah, I mean, natural versus man-made pretty much in a lab, and especially growing corn for that stuff too is just no bueno. So, there is a difference between the sugars. So there's different sugars out there you got to be aware of too. Imagine that a more healthy or more wholesome sugar would
Yeah,
be cane sugar versus like a high fructose corn syrup, like she was saying. You're
right.
not only ingesting the stuff that's sweet, but also some chemicals that are involved in as well as mercury too. And manufacturers are utilizing high fructose corn syrup versus cane sugar because it's cheaper for them.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
all about the money, right? All right, so that's all I have for sugar right now. Besides, yeah, that's all I have for sugar right now for that.
So, this is outside of the candy spectrum, but for those who do need a little bit of sugar, there is a difference between the source of the sugar, right? So, if it's coming from real cane juice or beets, it is different than if they're making it from corn. And the sugar that is as a topping, kind of hits the tongue in a certain way, has a certain mouthfeel. If you add your own sugar to something, you probably will eat less than if you're having something that's already sweetened. So this goes beyond the Halloween kind of candy chat, but imagine yourself having a bowl of oatmeal that's plain oatmeal or still cut oats, and you put your own sugar on top versus buying one that's been pre-sweetened by the manufacturer. And that goes with cereals and other things that you might put sugar on. So just to keep that in mind. Um, all right. So other things that come in that candy, since we're talking about Halloween, and you already mentioned some of them. We're talking about, artificial sweeteners. And certainly there might be some preservatives. There may be some things to keep things like flexible and stretchy. So you are going to get a bowl full of chemicals in that candy. Something that doesn't get talked about enough is the wrappers. Most of the candy wrappers are plastic. So think about taffy that kind of sticks to the wrapper, right? You're probably getting plastic and microplastics in your candies as well. So
I didn't even
that's a
think about that.
consideration with like it goes beyond the candy talk, right? I was unwrapping cheese for someone recently and I realized like that stretchy plastic is right up against the cheese. In the old fashioned days when you went to get cheese from the deli counter, they wrapped it in paper or wax paper at least. Yeah. So microplastics are everywhere. So that's another consideration is what is this wrapped in? What is it touching? We can go on and on about this, but you know,
No,
just
it's all about awareness.
yeah, it's more troublesome than we think, right? So
No, absolutely. And then another thing that we could touch on are the dyes that are in some of this candy. The bright colors and whatnot, those aren't the best for you either. I mean, what have you seen on your end as a registered dietitian and in your research and that sort of thing?
yeah, absolutely. You are going to get some colored dyes are seem to be more harmful than others. If you read the label and the dyes have numbers next to them, that might be something you want to consider. Is it? I forget what the number of that red dye. I don't know.
Red dye number 40.
Yeah, right. Red dye number this,
Yeah.
green number this, and blue number that. Right. So, certainly I don't think they're putting natural annatto coloring into candy, but, you know, then if we start talking about, well, the better than are the things that don't need the preservatives and the stabilizers and the colorants. So there's a start right there without even talking about types of candy. But if it doesn't need those things, that's going to be a better than type of choice. And we didn't really talk that much about the consequences of what is this sugar doing in our body, but certainly for your audience, it's certainly not helping you lose weight, right? Because sugar is an empty calorie, otherwise known as a naked calorie. It doesn't come with any nutrients. So it's not feeding healthy parts of our body. It's not feeding our healthy cells. It's most likely feeding like the weeds. And that's where we get into gut health is that sugar is feeding the more pathogenic bacteria because the type of bacteria that we want more of, they don't like sugar. They want starches and fibers particularly from, more the foods like fruits and vegetables, and certain starches. They want those things that are hard to digest, that only the bacteria can digest. The guys that in there that like sugar are the ones we don't want as much of, the yeasties and the nasties. And the byproducts of those nasties are toxins. So they're toxins. They're more maybe creating more ammonia, or creating acidity where there shouldn't be acidity, or alkalinity where there shouldn't be alkalinity. So they're feeding those weeds. That's all we can, think of the garden, not feeding the flowers.
Oh, that's not good. So the garden of your gut is being fertilized pretty much by the sugar and having some overgrowth of the bad stuff. And then usually a lot of people don't get in a lot of fruits and vegetables to begin with. It'll cause an even bigger problem, or cause
Right.
the problem to get bigger quicker.
Yeah, because sugar does have a bit of an appetite. I'm not saying it's an appetite suppressant, but it does. I mean, if you eat sugar, your appetite will be muted a little bit, because it is giving us a form of energy, not a great form, but it is giving our body a form of energy that it can utilize fuel. It's just that fuel is, we'll call it like not clean burning fuel. So it's sort of like leaded gasoline versus, unleaded, natural stuff. So, the other consequences of these candies, with all the stuff we're talking about in it, is it can create, stress. It can create anxiety. It can create difficulty sleeping, high blood sugar, and then those downstream effects of that. And it's a vicious cycle, because I bet those kids do not sleep well, and parents and adults, all right, who are eating extra candy on Halloween are probably not having the best night of sleep. So what are they looking for in the morning but more sugar, and then maybe more caffeine and coffee? That's a whole nother conversation. So
Well, I was going to say that's right. Ingesting the candy, the sugar, so to speak, is going to cause a trigger in a lot of people
mhm.
where they can't stop is another thing too.
Yeah.
Some people have that trigger, some people don't. So that's just going to cause a bigger problem. As far as what you said earlier about, well, let's do this. Another tip that kind of goes with this too is to, when you end up buying candy or anything to give away, try to either buy something that's a non-food item to give out, or you can give away something healthy. Like you mentioned, honey was a healthy sugar, right? Everybody loves honey. Well, a lot of people love honey. Most people do. You get those honey sticks. I mean, I don't know how much sugar is in a honey stick, but maybe it's up at that 40 or a little bit less than that. But that's something good that you can give out. That's natural. You're not giving out chemicals with dyes and stuff like that, honey sticks. And again, something that's non-candy related. And we're gonna ask the audience at the end of this thing something about giving away and collecting items. I won't give that up now though. But yeah, that's another thing that they can do. Do you have any other tips too, as far as Halloween's concerned?
Yeah, I mean, you could add to that. We talked about the non-food items like stickers. I mean, some people are giving out nickels, or they're giving out gift certificates to things. I wish there was like a ticket system. Those carnivals where you go and you
Or the
collect
skee
tickets.
ball?
Yeah, you collect tickets and then you get to trade those tickets in. I mean, that would be kind of fun, because then it's, let's see how many, tickets I can collect. So that's how many houses you went to. We used to, weigh our candy bag and look how much loot I have. A note to parents, like, bribe your kids if you have to, if it's like, I want more time trick or treating. I want to see how much candy I get. I mean, there's different ways to go about that, to say, well, why don't we just get you something really special? We'll go door to door. We know that there's now options to donate candy and stuff like that, but that's just passing off that stuff to somebody else. So it's better for me, not so good for you. So again, we put it in the spectrum of, for being a little selfish here, a better than situation, right?
Maybe give away glow sticks or something, safety, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something visual that the kids would
Yeah,
love, as
yeah. I
opposed
mean,
to sugar.
you can get mini what is the fruit leathers. I mean, some of those things are more expensive, but my favorite candy, just personally and also as a giveaway, is always going to be one of those mini chocolates. The darkest you can find, chocolate because it's going to have the least crap in it. I mean, it should just have 3 or 4 ingredients, maybe Hershey's Kisses or another brand that makes one that's maybe even a little bit less sugar. There are some companies that do make even organic little mini wrapped chocolates. So
Hey, you know what? You say it may be expensive, but you shouldn't be eating a quantity of it anyway. And when you do eat it, might as well be real high quality, right?
right. That's if we're buying it for ourselves, so that's one
Hmm.
option is to say, what is something a treat like for myself and my family, maybe we won't be collecting as much candy from the outside, but we're going to have a delicious treat. We're going to buy a chocolate torte or fruit, something special that evening or during that week. But when I talk about more expensive, people are saying, oh, to give fruit leather away to all the neighbors, it's expensive. Yeah. So, I mean, that is a consideration. People are buying Twizzlers and Skittles because they're cheap. So, again, rethinking that it's this quantity issue, versus quality. And those little boxes of raisins, I don't know are they getting thrown out? Probably, right? That you can get little bags of chips and pretzels, there's pros and cons to that, less sugar, but then you have some of the same issues in terms of the quality of the food you're getting.
Oh, then you get the chips with the high fat, and then you get the
Yeah,
sugar to go
yeah.
with
So
it.
it's a spectrum. We're talking a
Yeah.
better than. So try to buy the best quality that you can afford. Budget, count your grams. It's a teaching opportunity for kids. I once did an activity in a school. It was an elementary school when my kids were in elementary, and we lined up different types of. Actually, we different types of foods, but also different candies. And this was during Halloween, a sugar awareness. And we took cubes of sugar to represent how much sugar was in the item. And, we would stack them up. And that's visual. When kids were like, 40 cubes of sugar in an apple juice, stuff that they might have considered healthy, and some of the smoothie drinks, it was quite eye-opening when you measure out the sugar in either cubes or teaspoons and say, yep, that's what you just had to drink. That's what you're eating. So
That reminds me of that ketchup meme that I posted a while ago, but I've seen it go around a little bit where you have the bottle of ketchup with the ketchup in it. Then next to it, it has the bottle of ketchup without any ketchup, but it shows you how much sugar is in it. And it's unbelievable.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. So
craziness.
it's hiding in things we wouldn't even suspect. Yeah.
And then the other thing that we could do, again, being realistic, right, is say you do collect a bunch of candy and you get your kids, they collect a bunch of candy. What you can do is portion it over spread it out over the next several days or weeks or 10 days or whatever the case may be. And like you said, Tiana, like a learning opportunity with your children, you go ahead and, portion it off and kind of explain to them like a visual, like, hey, this is, how much sugar is allotted to be quote unquote safe, if you will, where you're not going overboard, let's put it that way, and just have it like that. Um, and maybe that would carry over into the other holidays, possibly. Maybe Thanksgiving, then there's a learning opportunity there to go, but we won't get into that until Thanksgiving, but there's a learning opportunity for that too. But yeah, portion stuff off so that you're not just
Yeah.
going crazy
Have
with
a
it.
limit, donate it, throw it out, freeze it. Again, this, like I said, if it's not your problem and it becomes somebody else's problem. So, this donate thing, like I said, it's better for me and my kids, but where's it going? I mean, what again? So
I mean, I don't know how it would go over if you're passing out candy, but you also pass out to every, kid that comes through a little pamphlet on how to portion stuff off or how to utilize your loot of candy, over the next couple of weeks so that you don't go overboard. I mean, some tips or something. I wonder
yeah,
how.
that's why I wish there was another system, tokens or nickel. Oh, I don't know. We could turn it into money, tokens, tickets, and then turning it into something else. But that's just changing the whole
Yeah,
holiday.
that's not going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
We got a long way to
We're
go
trying to
for
be
that.
realistic here and have a better than, and also protect ourselves. And also depends the situation and the health situation for the person. People ask me all the time, they'll comment because when they hear I'm a dietitian, oh no, don't look at my lunch, or is this bad? I was in the airport last night traveling, and I'm in the lounge. I bump into somebody that I was in line with. He's like, oh, how you doing? Where you come from? Oh, I was at a conference, and oh, what conference? We got to talking, and he's like, oh, you're a dietitian. Is this okay? What I'm eating? Again, what I've learned over time. Do I want to be judgmental about that person's meal? So my pat answer is depends what your goals are, right?
Yeah, it depends. It always depends. You
Depends
got to
what your
put
goals
stuff in
are,
context.
right?
Yep.
So, I mean, do you want me to tell you the nutritional content of that? Do you have conditions that you're trying to avoid? Are you in pain? So I'm like, yeah, enjoy it. I mean, if you want my opinion, it depends what your goals are. So for some people who are with your program and they're trying to get fit and they're trying to maximize their caloric intake with the most nutrient dense foods, like they may need the calories, but not from candy. They need the nutrients that comes with increased calories. So I hear that too with parents. Oh, my kid plays sports and they're thin. They're actually underweight. They can afford to eat all that in a way. But it also, the sugar. We haven't gotten to this. It definitely affects the immune system. I bet if they tracked how many kids got colds and flus the week after Halloween, or had bumps and up in maybe some of their own chronic conditions, but it's not great for your immune system, and it's not the best way to fuel the next soccer game. We know complex carbs are going to be way better than the sugar, right? So
Nice slower burn, clean,
yeah,
slower, clean
and
burn.
and it comes with nutrients. Like you feed someone sugar, they need B vitamins in order to metabolize it and get the most energy from that. So something we haven't covered is, okay, you ate the candy. What do we do now? How do we help compensate? Right. So, this might be the time to cycle in some multivitamins. Just the week of how, if it's not something you normally take, oh, you know what? If you have them lying around and you're someone who cycles or pulses them, like that they only take them sometimes. Yeah, when you're eating a lot of sugar is probably the time to take a multivitamin just to help your body to compensate.
I wasn't even thinking that the wrong time of year to be doing that too, as the weather's changing, of course, and cold season's coming, and hopefully COVID stays at bay. We won't talk about that. Um, so that makes sense. And I mean, another practical thing. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but don't buy your favorite candy. That kind of goes back to, maybe spend a little bit of extra and get yourself and your family anyway a treat if you guys are going to go ahead and celebrate it that way, and give the other stuff away, and maybe with that list of tips, but that might end up in the trash like the raisins. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, or just buy less, and when it runs out, it runs out. I would say most people overbuy than underbuy, but it depends on your neighborhood. If you've lived there, well, let's skip the last couple of years, but prior to that, if you've lived there, and if you don't know what your neighborhood is like, just ask your neighbors. So say, hey, how many trick or treaters do you tend to get in this neighborhood? And don't overbuy.
Yeah, exactly. Because guess what happens? If you overbuy, it's going to be in the house. If it's in the house, you'll probably eat it, or
Yep.
someone in the house, and you don't want that. So that's right. And then another quick tip is eat a large dinner before trick or treating. If you're actually going to go out trick or treating, you're going to collect. Maybe you'll collect a lot less. I mean, I was going to have a tip of have the kids sprint from house to house or every so often, but I don't think that's going to go over very well. So I'll keep that one to myself. Any other tips that you have, Tiana, for everybody for the Halloween holiday, or maybe just the holidays in general?
Yeah, I mean, so certainly the night of, right, is definitely have that good meal. But I would say if you're planning your meals for the week, again, with this idea that you want to improve immunity and improve gut health to counteract some of the toxins or toxicants that you're going to be getting in this food, focus on fibers, focus on vegetables, focus on polyphenols, which are like brightly colored and deeply colored foods, because that's going to help to counteract the negative effects that you're going to have both on your microbiome and on your immune system from eating more sugar and some of these other contaminants that are coming along for the ride. So, you just want to kind of plan that in. This is a great week to boost up some of those types of foods. So it helps to counteract, gives you some more nutrients.
After you saying that, it kind of makes sense I'm just thinking of the whole, we were talking about this earlier before we went live, but as far as everybody making excuses, this is the start of the excuses, like for the holidays. Oh, I don't want to start a fitness program this time of year because of this, because of the holidays. It's like what you just said, you want to, with all the sugar and all this unhealthy stuff floating around, you want to make sure that the majority of the time that you're eating what you should be eating and nurturing yourself as opposed to just feeding the hunger. Nurture yourself
Absolutely.
during this time so that when you do have these times of indulgence of some of these sugars and some of these unhealthy foods, your immune system is where it kind of needs to be. And
Mm-hmm.
again, Halloween's the first one, right? So Halloween night is when you really collect the candy. Maybe the candy stays with you for the next 2 weeks, three, whatever the case may be, at least. And then you have Thanksgiving. But before Halloween, well, we only have a week now, but before Halloween, that's pretty quiet. And then after Halloween is when it starts. So after Halloween, what are you going to do? Eat candy all day? It's like you got to eat. So you might as well be eating what you should be eating, eating healthy and getting somewhere. And then when you get to Thanksgiving, again, Thanksgiving, it's not 2 weeks, it's not three. Thanksgiving is a day. It's a meal, maybe two because the desserts after, right? But anyway, it's one day, and then after the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, right? And then you got the next days. All those days, you should be eating healthier, what you should be eating, and then all the way. Then all of a sudden you got Christmas, but in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, you got maybe a couple holiday parties, whatever. But again, during the week and during all that other time, these other days, I mean, you should be eating healthier and keep your immune system up. Then all of a sudden, right after Christmas is New Year's, right after. And then when you get to your resolution, you can actually come out of this better shape. So if you started a nutrition program or a fitness program now, in January, you come out of it better than you would than if you didn't.
Right.
Make sense?
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
the whole excuse of, this not this time of year, I don't want to start a fitness and nutrition program, kind of doesn't make sense, does it?
Well, not to me, but it does take effort. So I do think that one of the complaints about this time of year is time, right? Because you're out. Let's say you're planning your costume, you're making your costume. There's Halloween parties. You are answering the door, and now you're taking your kids out. It takes time to do all those things, and that is part of the enjoyment of life. You want to embrace that. You want to enjoy it. So I think one of the things that happens this time of year is people feel they don't have time to make these healthy meals. So a little bit of meal planning goes a long way. This might also be the time to take a few shortcuts and buy your chicken pre-cooked or buy some sliced deli meat, the better kind, maybe some, more of the organics and the less preservatives. Go to the salad bar, make meals ahead of time and freeze them. Do more meals made from beans. I mean, how easy is it to open up a can of beans? Make some soups from frozen vegetables. So we do need to be realistic on our time, and time crunch is often one of the big holiday time of year excuses or reasons, right? What's the difference between an excuse and a reason? So that's another conversation. So just again, to be realistic, or maybe get together with your neighbors and take turns cooking. I mean, I don't know why there's not more of that community type sharing. If someone's home making a stir fry, they could make 2 or 3 times the amount with
Easily.
not 2 or 3 times the effort. And then they deliver it to a friend. And then when that friend is cooking something, then, a soup, a stew, some chili, they make 2 or 3 times and share it around. So let's take the philosophy of the cookie share and turn it into nourishing meals. And again, that's a way to to counterbalance all the other stuff that's going on during this time of year.
No, that's awesome. Great strategies as far as you said it, you hit the nail on the head time, right? Everyone's running around extra because of the holidays. I mean, that's the time you should probably nourish yourself so that you're mentally better and you can run around without too much of effort. And you hit the nail on the head with strategies to make things quicker. There are just so many. People are just unaware and they don't practice it because they just don't know, or maybe they're not aware. I mean, to do chili or something in the crock pot, will last quite. You could do you got a pressure cookers now, air fryers. I mean, there's so many different ways, the meals that you can buy.
How about
Little
stuffed potatoes, right? When was the last time someone just cooked up a whole bunch of potatoes and then you stuff them with your chili or your chicken salad, so then you have your healthy dense carbs for your workouts and you've got
Mhm.
your other nutrients. Getting back to some of those. And then this might be a time, like I said, to take a few supplements again for counterbalance. I can't make specific suggestions, but I'm talking like more general, a more general probiotic and multivitamin for some people. Kind of getting through this season is not a bad idea, and people can reach out to me if they want some recommendations on that. So there's definitely some that are more foundational, prevention minded versus specific targeted because of testing or someone's personalized nutrition plan. There's enough that's we can recommend generally.
Yeah, awesome. So beef up those nutrients
Mhm.
for this
Yeah.
time of year to help you out a bit. That's definitely huge. And I didn't ask for anybody that was watching to do any comments or anything, but uh, I will now. If you guys are watching this on the replay or you're still hanging on watching it now at the last bit of it, go ahead and pop your questions or any comments that you have into the comments section of this video, and we will see it and interact inside the group. Yes. So, Halloween, sugar. Sugar is bad. Everybody knows that. Want to stay away from that, especially because your immune system and immunity is a big topic these days. It has been since COVID. What else we have? They are empty sugar, empty calories. As far as if you are on a nutrition and fitness program and you're trying to get ahead, all sugar is really a detour. You get the satisfaction of the taste and the brain chemicals, whatever, but you're giving yourself a little bit of a detour. And again, you don't have to go overboard, and there is moderation. And depending on who you are and what your program is and what you're trying to do, you could ask myself or Tiana, and we could have a talk about that. But that's, I think, all what I have as far as Halloween is concerned. Anything else that you have, Tiana?
Uh, yeah. Just remember that not being able to do these things we're talking about is just another excuse, and it's the season of excuses. And so, just take one tip at a time and build upon it, and just creating awareness. You know,
And how do we end up at the beginning of the year as a resolution? That's the time for resolutions, and then the end of the year is the time for excuses. How does that work? I don't know. Anyhow, so yeah, guys, stop with the excuses. All right, stop with the excuses.
yeah.
No need. All right, I guess that's it. So there is one thing that Tiana and I wanted to ask the audience. You want to ask them, Tiana?
Yeah, I'm just curious to know from our audience, if you have any other tips for what you recommend to give away at Halloween. And I'm curious to know what you come across this Halloween season that is the most creative giveaway. I'm just curious. It's kind of like, ooh, challenge time. Maybe we
Yeah.
need a campaign about that, right? A campaign of, more creative, more environmentally friendly and body friendly giveaways, right?
Also, I can remember when I was a kid, way back in Lynn, there was this one house that gave away. There's always a house around that gives this like crazy stuff away, and they always like run out before you get there. Now there's this one house. They had a actual indoor pool inside, believe it or not, which is really rare for Lynn. Anyway, so you go to the house and they always give away these giant pixie sticks, which are horrible for you, but these giant pixie sticks, they're like huge. They're like the talk of the town for the kids. What have you seen, Tiana, when you were a kid? Anything crazy, trick or treat
I
giveaways?
a lot of my fun memories, because I used to live in Beacon Hill. That is such a great place to go trick or treating. Some of the houses do give away the full size, candy bars. But actually, in some of the houses, the attraction is not the candy. It's like the activity that's going on outside the house. So some people would hire actors and they would play roles, and it would be like a mini maze and haunted houses, and you go to something like that and you're almost distracted, like, oh, candy, right? So, I do remember that. And then again, if you were going to people's houses that you knew, some of them would have, a warm beverage and have more homemade options. Obviously you need to know the house and trust. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we're not getting much of that these days, but
Very different days. Yeah, you're right.
days. And again, they do make mini.
We're talking 80s and 90s, folks, by the way.
For me, 70s and 80s. Yeah, right. So,
Oh man.
there was always somebody would give away, jacks. I don't know if this crowd even knows what jacks are.
Oh no, I remember though.
It'd be a great giveaway is a jump rope. How about that?
Right. Oh my.
Yeah, just some jump rope. Yeah.
Serious. I would have loved that as a kid. All right. Well, you guys got it. You got some tips, you got some info, and if you need anything else, I didn't see any comments come in. No, but again, if you guys are watching this on the replay, have any questions specifically, even for your kids or what have you, go ahead and put them right there in the comment section, and we will get to you. So before I do the outro, Tiana, do you want to let everybody know where they can find you besides the Facebook group?
Yeah, I mean, that would be that you can tag me there and I will get back to you. But you can see my name on the screen, Tiana Celesia. So just do tianacelesia.com. That's probably the simplest way to find me. Because you might need me and your services if you don't follow these tips, right?
Right, especially year after year.
A gut healing program with me. So
yep, she'll have you feeling better, a lot better. All right, that's it for this evening. I hope you got something out of tonight's broadcast. Like I said, I want to thank our group expert and registered dietitian, Tiana Celesia. Thank you for joining us this evening. This was awesome. Maybe next time when we do progress, we'll have guests on as well, because that's always a fun time. Thank you again for tuning in. And I'm Coach FitPro J, your diet-free fat loss specialist. Like I said, I've been there, done that, and now I help others do the same. I help successful, busy people turn their mom and dad bods into, oh my God, bods, without overwhelm, by keeping it simple, keeping it moving, and keeping it real, using my 3-phase program, Diet-Free Bootcamp for Successful, Busy People. If you'd like to connect with a coach that talks the talk and walks the walk, you can direct message me right here on Facebook. And again, you can find Tiana Celesia right here in the Facebook group. Just tag her. Or you can find her at tianacelesia.com. And remember, Fit Fan, keep it simple, keep it moving, and keep it real, especially when it comes to your fitness. Have an awesome week, a safe Halloween, and I will see you guys later. See you. Bye, Tiana.
bye.
I know everybody a go like. I know everybody a go like. Success don't come off. I know